Welcome back to MMA Al Dente. I am the guy who picked Patchy Mix to defeat Mario Batista. He's going to get in his face. He's going to take him down. He's going to choke him out. What the fuck is Mario going to do about that? Yeah, that was a fucking disaster, and I'll get to that in a few minutes. But I'm here to recap UFC 316, the full card. Overall, I don't know how my picks went. Probably went well, but the bets, not so much. But that's okay. It doesn't bother me. Not at all.
But sometimes I feel, I don't know. I don't know. You motherfuckers. You motherfuckers.
Yeah, that about sums it up there. Okay, let's start at the top. Merab Dvalishvili beat Sean O'Malley by round three north-south choke, and this is what ultimately killed my betting night. I had all my eggs in that basket at the end, Sean O'Malley with plus points, because I was sure Merab wasn't going to finish him. Without any flukes or horseshit, I knew there's no chance he's going to finish him. Of course, I knew nothing, Jon Snow. Merab Dvalishvili just overwhelmed him, and made good on his promise to get a finish. He's got just one finish in his 15 fights in the UFC or whatever it is, and I did not think it was possible. But Merab didn't clip Sean O'Malley, not with some spinning back shit or some flying shit. He went through him on the ground and forced him to tap. It was an incredible win for Merab. Merab is never going to be the grappler to really go through you. He's more of a rider. He's not Mr. Jiu-Jitsu, but he's an excellent MMA fighter. And of course, he's got some real fucking gorilla strength there, too. Jeff Monson, if you don't know him, he's pretty much the king of the North South choke in MMA history. He was a very unique grappler, wrestler grappler, more of a neutralizer and a grinder, kind of like Merab in a way, without all the energy and all that. But when Merab hit that sub on Sean O'Malley, I just got flashbacks of Monson, who was built like a fucking barrel, and you could see Merab pressing his chest and his torso down on O'Malley, and you could watch that squeeze happen in real time. I mean, that's pretty much what happens with every submission. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about there. But Merab strangled Sean, and he did so with gorilla strength. It started off with a ninja choke, and then he kind of just kept the choke, kept the lock with his hands. But Sean O'Malley turned over, and Merab brought his torso down. I think that makes it a north-south choke, but I really have no idea. The north-south could be just a reverse guillotine. Regardless, Sherdog has it listed as a north south. You know what? I bet you Sherdog has Kevin Holland winning by Bravo choke or Darce choke. That's not a Darce choke. That's an anaconda choke, but I'll get to that in a little bit. Either way, Sean, he's never been subbed. We all knew it was possible because he is the striker. You know, it's kind of like when Adesanya got subbed by Duplessis. It wasn't like, oh my God. But still, Sean's never been tapped in competition in MMA here, and Merab, of all guys, is the guy to go through him on the ground. O'Malley, I think, looked good, too, in round two, anyway. I think defending those takedowns against Merab pretty much that whole round. In the end, I believe he was taken down, but I thought, oh, this is going to be a very competitive fight. But Merab ended up winning that round, getting him to the mat, and then in round three, tossed him around like a pizza, and then went through him on the mat at the end of the round there. I think Merab leveled up here. I mean, I thought he leveled up against Umar in his last fight as well, but he just keeps growing, as does his legacy. And yeah, he is the fucking man. He's the man, and I hope he's not so reliable in the future to be a lock for a decision. I want to see Merab bring the danger. He's a guy who can afford to take chances, probably because he's got such an excellent gas tank. And presented with an opportunity in round three, he closed the show. And that only happened because O'Malley was forced to do something. He was forced to do something, and I think he underrated Merab's submission prowess. But O'Malley was getting his ass kicked and had to make something happen. Another thing I wanted to say is credit to Sean O'Malley for maturing as a person. I'm one of those guys who shit on him for his fucking pink hair and the fucking whatever, the tattoos. I'm like an old man. And you know, these like there are these bad guys in the movies, just these townspeople that hate the hero. That's me. I've got to fill that role, and that's what I've been with Sean O'Malley. But he has obviously grown up, especially in the last year. And I respected him for standing by Merab doing that big fucking 10-minute jamboree with all his family and friends and thanking everybody in the world. And then I forgot O'Malley was even in the octagon. And O'Malley stood tall. I mean, his head was held down, and, you could tell he was sad. But he fulfilled his last professional duty as a fighter for this week, this event. And he gave a post-fight interview and said, "I'm just looking to go hang out with my family, my kids. I've got an excellent life." Sure, he probably cried in the shower after that, but it's still great knowing he's got that perspective. Once he's done in the shower and the immediate depression wears off, uh, he's going to be fine. But Merab, yeah, he's the man of the hour. I really wish he won those two fights that he lost in the UFC. Not just because it would make his record prettier, but because I feel like he deserved to win them as well. But regardless, they were his first two fights. So that means he's got still one hell of an undefeated streak at 13 or whatever it is now. And again, with a legit finish on the ground over a champion in Sean O'Malley, his stock's as high as it's ever been. Not to mention the Umar victory. But yeah, that was a great main event. And the co-main event, we pretty much got what we knew was possible. I mean, I thought the fight would have went a little longer, but Kayla Harrison is a monster on top, and she was just too much for Pena. I got a text here. Oh, it's Patchy Mix. He said he's sorry for his dog shit performance. You are not forgiven. Go fuck yourself. I want my $40 back. No, but I'll get to that fight in a minute. But Kayla Harrison went through Juliana on the mat. Juliana's been finished a few times on the mat. Even her TKO was due to her arm breaking from an armbar. But Kayla Harrison dominated her and next leveled her. Juliana Pena was in a competitive fight with Valentina Shevchenko, a competitive fight with Sarah Moras, and with uh, Jermaine Durandamy. But against Kayla Harrison, it was dominance and 10-8 dominance because Kayla was caught in the chin with some up kicks on the ground. And by the way, I really like Vitor Shalin Ribeiro, the referee and former fighter. That guy was one of the best fighters in the world 20 years ago or so. But I like how he took that point immediately. She got kicked in the face twice. Any kick in the face means a lot, but those two right in front of him, it warranted something big, and he took a point. But yeah, Kayla, she's the best fighter in the world right now. I don't want to delve into the fight with Amanda Nunes. I'm certainly not going to give you a prediction, but it wouldn't surprise me if she was the favorite because she is just such a monster. I said when she fought Ketlin Vieira that I thought of all the girls out there, Ketlin Vieira would give her the stiffest test, just with her takedown defense and physicality. But Kayla Harrison, she still won that physicality battle as she does in every fight, and certainly in this fight. And yeah, she passed that test with flying colors. I mean, maybe she should have gotten a finish for it to be flying colors, but whatever. And here she goes through Juliana Pena with ease, like she did against Holly Holm. Holly Holm even had a few moments, but Pena never had really any moments. Maybe she landed a few punches, but this was the Kayla Harrison show. And I thought she could get Juliana Pena out of there with a sub, but I didn't think she would uh, go through her that easily with her first Kimura attempt. She's just that strong where if she's advanced up on your body like that, she can isolate an arm and just fucking Josh Barnett it off your body. Frank Mir. and that's Kayla Harrison. She's a grappling monster, and I think if she gets on top of anybody, she's likely to finish them. Joe Pyfer beat Kelvin Gastelum by decision. I thought this was a solid victory and a clear victory, but I still thought there's a chance for a robbery here because Kelvin definitely won round three, and round two, there was something there. I thought Kelvin generally was the better fighter in the second half of the fight, but look, Pyfer didn't give him any huge moments when he was gassed, and he was visibly gassed in round three, and Pyfer's power still carried the day. I don't even know what the fuck that means. But his power obviously won round one, dropping Kelvin, and I thought he was close to becoming the first guy to finish Kelvin with strikes. But then in round two, he still, I think, narrowly won the round, and the difference was his power. And his output didn't hurt either. There was a lot of that hand fighting, hand game shit because Kelvin was having a hard time getting through Joe Pyfer's size. But Kelvin, my estimation of him is about the same. I mean, he is just a fucking tank. He's got that Mexican chin. It's just, it's phenomenal.
It's a stereotype, and it's offensive.
And even though it was too little too late, his traits were there for him with him coming back in round three. And I think if these two were to rematch in a 5-round fight, it's 50-50. I think Kelvin really came alive in the second half. But again, Pyfer did enough, and certainly without, with everything being equal on the scorecards, you'd have to say Pyfer got the better of him by nearly finishing him a few times in round one. So overall, decent performance from Pyfer, marred by round three, and for Kelvin Gastelum, same old Kelvin, and he was reliable in a lot of ways, but not enough to get a victory. Mario Batista beat Patchy Mix. What the fuck, Patchy Mix? Patchy Mix, I think I said in the pre-fight, I just kind of like alluded to the fact that he reminds me of of the Diaz brothers. I couldn't put my finger on it, but watching him fight in a fight like that, it's just obvious. He's a weak athlete, Patchy Mix. He's a weak athlete. He's a long, tall southpaw as well with a power right hand in his lead punch. And he definitely has some good striking, but he's unathletic. I think this fight was won on the athletic level alone from Mario Batista, where Patchy Mix knew pretty quickly, I'm not going to be able to catch him. I'm not going to be able to corral this guy into any sort of grappling scenario, let alone take him down. And Patchy, he's resourceful enough to the point where he made that a good fight in a pure stand-up fight. But by that, I mean he was doing kind of well in round two, and his chin was there for him. But overall, my estimation of him as a fighter, I can't say it's fucking plummeted like Phil Leotardo, but I think it's certainly dropped. And my estimation of him as a striker, that has plummeted. This guy needs a lot of work on his striking, no head movement. Mario Batista cracked him with overhand rights right down the center multiple times in a row. And Patchy Mix had no answer for it. Did not move his head, did not move his legs. And I think I know hasn't been knocked out before, but he was stunned in this fight. He's stunned by Horiguchi, stunned by Magomedov. He's going to go down soon. And he can maybe stop that from happening by developing good striking or good enough striking where he's got the fundamentals down, getting his head off the center line and moving, creating movement, making himself more difficult to attack. And I know he would have lost the movement battle and all that anyway because Mario, again, was clearly the better athlete, the faster guy. But Patchy didn't do himself any favors. And yeah, he tried to stand tall, take it on the chin, and fight back with that lead right hook. And he had some good moments, but he was generally stuck in the mud in a losing fight, and Batista shined. Batista was hit with a lot of hard shots, and he's been knocked out before. I thought his chin looked solid. But yeah, his striking overall looked next level compared to Patchy Mix. And this was an excellent win for Mario Batista. And a real disaster of a debut for Patchy Mix. It's one thing to lose and show your skills. But he lost here and didn't get to show his grappling skills anyway. Showed a little bit of striking, something there on the feet, but in general, he showed a lot of negative technical traits on the feet. And my estimation of him as a fighter, again, it's definitely dipped, if not plummeted. Kevin Holland got Vicente Luque out of there. Again, that's a fucking anaconda choke. That is not a Darce choke. Kevin Holland was calling it a Darce choke. The commentators start calling it a Darce choke. And now here, Sherdog has it listed as a Bravo choke, but that's a Darce choke. It's not. It was an anaconda or a gator roll or whatever the fuck else. Fuck you. It was uh, still an excellent submission for Kevin Holland. I knew Kevin Holland could submit Luque, but Luque hadn't been tapped in over a decade, and of course, he's tapped plenty of guys himself with anacondas and Darces really. And I thought he was the more likely guy to get the submission against Holland, but Holland had him hurt early, hit him with some beautiful hammer fists and shit, gave him that hematoma behind the ear, which was fucking disgusting. And yeah, Kevin Holland, I think in general, was in control of this fight. He hurt Luque. He was in general the sharper striker. He was really sharp as a welterweight athlete. Luque might have had physical strength on him in tight, but there was no getting in tight. And yeah, Holland fought a really clean fight and forced a finish, submitting Luque for the first time in 12 years or whatever. So excellent win for Kevin Holland. And you know what? Kevin Holland needs to stop with this. Yeah, I'm about the money and I'll go up and down and whatever and I'll fight, fun fights. No, you're in your prime. You're a contender at 170. You're a contender, even if you need luck. Everybody needs luck. Maybe you need a lot of luck with some favorable matchups and whatever. But Kevin Holland is not too far removed from the title scene at 170. You can say, oh, he's got all these negative highlights in the UFC, but they're all at 185 and they're all to beasts. He is still a contender at 170, not just a journeyman or whatever. So yeah, I hope to see Kevin Holland take his own career more seriously. He did call out Colby, which is an excellent call out because Colby has a huge name and he's on the downswing. And if Holland wins that fight, yeah, that puts him in title contention. Maybe not immediately, but he's a fight away or so. But yeah, for Luque, I'm a big Luque fan as well, and it sucks seeing Luque get hurt and get submitted. I'd almost prefer him to get knocked out, even though that would hurt his career more moving forward. So I guess it's nice, but this still hurts as a Luque fan, watching him get tapped for the first time in a long, long time. But Luque is an action fighter, and he's somebody who he may be too far removed from the title now that Kevin Holland stepped over him for him to make any big waves. But he is still not far removed from his prime and a guy that's very dangerous and exciting and belongs in the UFC. And in the main event of the prelims, Joshua Van TKO'd Bruno Silva with a last minute finish. This was incredible. I think Josh Van looked awesome in this fight. Bruno Silva looked tough as all fuck, but in the end, it was just too much. Kind of like his last fight against Manel Kopp. But yeah, Joshua Van, my estimation of his future is he's going to be competing for a title. And I'm usually not high on guys who have been knocked out and submitted. And he was knocked out cold and submitted in his two losses. But he's still a young, healthy 20 fuck year old, whatever, four, I don't know. And he is surging. He's surging. Bruno Silva, he may have a spotty record in the UFC, but I consider him an above average flyweight. And Joshua Van just stomped on him. And I thought Joshua Van looked awesome in this fight. He accelerated, even though he was leading early. He's usually not leading early, but here he just kicked ass the whole way. His hands looked phenomenal, and he was too much for Bruno Silva in the end. Joshua Van, he's not the most concussive fighter. He's not the most powerful guy, but Joshua Van is one of those workhorses, like Merab, but in a much different way. Where yeah, Joshua Van can force finishes down the stretch. So great win for Joshua Van. I don't care who he fights next as long as it's a meaningful fight. And honestly, I'd love to see him in a 5-rounder. He would shine in a 5-round fight. And yeah, regardless of who the opponent is, I'd be playing those props. Round 3, 4, and 5, and whatever. Azamat Mirzakhanov, he didn't need any rounds 3, 4, or 5 to beat Bredison Hibiero. He was just too dangerous for him. Brenison's a very dangerous guy himself, but he's also vulnerable. Azamat hit him with a few shots throughout the first few minutes and didn't do much, but then like the 4th or 5th shot clipped him, and so did the 6th and the 7th and the 8th, and Brenison was done. And then Mirzakhanov actually mounted him and finished it there, I believe. But great win for Mirzakhanov. This is a guy who said himself he needs to get more active, and he needs to fight like a guy who's worried that his prime is going to leave him, and he's got to make shit happen here. He's passed all these tests here, some of them really good, but none of them that are going to make him a star in the UFC. Here he called for a 5-round fight in his next fight, a main event, obviously, and that would be fucking awesome. Not that I expect it to go 5 rounds, even though it could, but it would mean that he's fighting somebody with a meaningful name. But yeah, great win for Azamat Mirzakhanov. And for Brenison Hibiero, I've had doubt in his chin here in the past, and moving forward, yeah, you'll hear me say that shit again. Waldo Cortez Acosta beat Sergey Spivak. I thought this was a really close fight. I got to be honest, I thought Spivak won. And I'm not saying that with sour grapes or whatever, because I thought I had Spivak winning the fight. I did pick him to win, but my main play was on the under, even though I still played Spivak by decision. But regardless, the decision went Cortez's way, Cortez Acosta's way, and that's not a robbery. This is not some great travesty. These rounds were close, but yeah, I did favor Sergey Spivak in rounds 1 and 3. And round 3 really surprised me there. I thought the fight was getting away from Spivak, and I thought his wrestling was a non-factor after a brief moment or whatever in round 1. I just had it in my head. He's not going to be going through this guy on the ground like I thought he was. And instead, he fought him on the feet. And Sergey, I thought, landed the much better shots in round 3. And I don't even know which rounds went to whom. I have to look at the decisions or the scorecards. But I'm assuming Waldo won rounds 2 and 3. But regardless, like I said, close fight, could have gone either way. And Spivak, he's still got a lot more to give. But he is the guy who's been knocked out a bunch, even though that's because he's fought a much better set of fighters. But Waldo, this was his step into the big leagues now. He's going to be ranked, might be ranked right now. I don't fucking know. But Spivak was ranked, and Waldo Cortez Acosta is going to take a big step up in his next fight. And for Waldo, look, he's got some great technical traits as a fighter. He's a solid boxer. He's got a solid chin, and that was on full display in this fight. Yeah, I've seen him get knocked out in boxing, but I still think he's got a really solid chin. And he's really tough to take down. So maybe he makes for some interesting matchups against guys that you and I consider way above him and way better than him. Andreas Gustafsson, speaking of which, not that I considered him lesser than Chaos Williams. I picked Chaos to win, but I wasn't too gung-ho on betting on him, even though the odds shrunk. So, yeah, I did bet on him. But, yeah, I just got that one wrong completely. Andreas Gustafsson, I expected him to be the aggressor. And in the event the fight went the distance, I thought that could give him the edge. But there was no edge that was needed here. He just beat the shit out of Chaos. Beat him up almost forced a finish on the ground and maybe even a few times on the feet. I thought he was the more powerful guy, the more aggressive guy, and I thought he looked like a combination of Randy Couture and Vanderlei Silva. Just a fucking berserker, and then in the clinch, a really good, dirty boxer and strong grappler. And Chaos Williams, who's got a very solid record in the UFC, definitely a winning record and a high enough profile, he was stepped over here by a guy making his UFC debut. This was not an easy debut for anybody on paper, but Andreas Gustafsson, I think he's going to make a splash in the UFC. He already did, frankly, with this victory. Wang Tong, beat Ariane Lipski da Silva. I thought this was a clear victory for Wang Tong, but I was still really impressed with Ariane Lipski and her performance in this fight. Maybe not her performance throughout the whole weekend altogether. But in this fight, I thought she showed a lot of grit. She easily could have been finished, but she showed to be a resourceful fighter, fighting southpaw, and then, mixing back into it to land her shit. But she also did land her shit. I thought she came close to knocking out Wang Tong. Wang Tong, she was clipped against Gabriela Fernandez, and that's what got the ball rolling and led to her getting finished. And Lipski definitely put her to the test. She wasn't able to make much grappling happen there, but she did test her chin and hit her with some very dangerous shots. I thought she hit her with the more dangerous shots. And I thought there was a good chance she was going to knock her out. Maybe not before the fight, but during the fight. That's what was occurring to me. But Wang Tong definitely won the technical battle. I don't know the numbers, but I'm guessing they were on Wang Tong's side. And it's not like she wasn't landing with power herself. The best shots might have gone to Ariane, but Wang Tong definitely kicked her ass and, more importantly, kicked her leg. Looked really technical. And yeah, without measuring the power of each punch and whatever, the biggest moments in the fight, the biggest strikes in the fight were the leg kicks. She got knockdowns with those leg kicks. So yeah, great win for Wang Tong, and a gritty enough performance from Ariane Lipski da Silva. Ju Sung Yu knocked out Jaka Saragi. This was one of the most beautiful knockouts I've ever seen, and it was 28 seconds into the fight. Can't believe that's it. But yeah, this was my moneymaker here, my one big victory on this card. Jaka Saragi, he's been finished a bunch, but they're all on the ground. Here, Ju Sung Yu, who I thought would be the better fighter on the feet, I thought he would take the fight to the ground just because that's the path to a finish. Well, historically, when you look at the record of Jaka Saragi. But he got it done with one beautiful short left hook that, I mean, it's so simple, but I really think in its simplicity, it rivals Buckley versus Kasanganai and other flashy shit. That's one of the greatest knockouts of all time. It's all caught in one frame. You see the one punch just narrowly missed Ju Sung Yu. He comes back with this short hook. It was beautiful, right on the button. Hit a nice follow-up shot or two as well, but that was one and done. He could have walked away and had uh, the same highlight, which is a highlight for the ages. Great win for Ju Sung Yu. We didn't get to see him tested too much at all there. I don't even know if Jacob landed a punch, but without seeing him pass all these tests I want to see from him, I think he looked phenomenal. That's about as great of a debut as you could have. So awesome win for Ju Sung Yu. And for Jaka Saragi, this could be it for him in the UFC. And this definitely changes the complexion, the profile of his career. He's got a bad knockout loss here. This will set him back months in just recovery. So yeah, this could mean the end of his career, the beginning of the end. But he's a dynamic guy, and here, even in crushing defeat, he gives us one hell of a moment. Quillen Salkild beat Yanal Ashmouz by decision. I thought Quillen Salkild looked amazing until round 3. And then I thought Yanal Ashmouz looked amazing. Yanal Ashmouz showed a lot of grit. He was getting ragdolled by Quillen Salkild and generally beaten up. controlled as well, a little bit more of control. But then in round 3, he just beat the shit out of Quillen. He said, "Fuck this shit. I'm chopping your legs and I'm ripping you to the head and body for 5 minutes straight." And Quillen Sal killed was much like Paul Pfeiffer, Paul Felder, Joe Pfeiffer. Uh, in the on the main card, he was just cruising, trying to cruise to a victory. He was gassing, and his opponent was putting it on him, and he was in a position where he knew he was up, and he didn't try to really fight back and go for a finish. He mixed things up and got a takedown, I believe, but in general, he was outlasted and outworked in the end. Wasn't the greatest look, overall, but still, we have to remember what he looked like in rounds 1 and 2, and what he looked like there was a future contender. So pretty much, he gets the same type of victory that Joe Pfeiffer got. Great, great on paper, but there's something there that could be a problem moving forward. And in the first fight of the evening, Markel Medeiros beat Mark Choinsky in a very similar type of fight. He was definitely doing more on the feet, Markel. But in the end, Mark Choinsky, who I thought only had one good takedown in him and spent that takedown in round 1, Choinsky was all over him and forced him on the mat and mounted him. Wasn't able to secure a finish. He was going for a sub, and I think he knew if he postured up and started going for strikes, he would have been bucked off. But he definitely showed a lot of great traits in making that shit happen down the stretch. Because before that, he looked like a guy that spent himself in round 1 and then was being tooled by Markel Medeiros. I mean, he wasn't completely being shut out. His striking actually came alive a little bit in the middle as well. But in general, Markel Medeiros was a step ahead of him on the feet. He was a very difficult athlete to wrangle and control, and really did a good job stopping the wrestling of Choinsky. And yeah, Markel Medeiros was cruising on the feet. He looked really comfortable there and a step ahead of Choinsky. But even though he didn't visibly gas, in my opinion, so much like Pfeiffer and Quillen Sal killed, he was still tired, and Choinsky was able to push through his own exhaustion, him being the guy who took the fight on short notice. And again, Choinsky was the last man standing there. So Choinsky, Yanal Ashmuz, and Kelvin Gastelum are all, they showed some great traits, but it was too little too late in all 3 cases, and they lose decisions. Overall, I thought this was an awesome event. Got some really nice submissions. North-South choke, Kimura. We don't see that too frequently these days. And an Anaconda is always nice as well. We got some good action, one of the most beautiful knockouts ever, and some really competitive fights. This may not have been the greatest card, and it may not have turned out to be the greatest pay-per-view event, but I'd still say it was at least above average. This was an awesome night of fights, even though I paid $80 for it, and I paid through the fucking nose on my bets. Like, share, subscribe, all that horse shit, and check out my other videos.